episode of Asanon Living. Today's episode starts with a story of how I found that dance was a place of joy for my life. That story will kick off another part of our journey of self-discovery as we explore the theme of finding joy in our lives. In a world filled with chaos and uncertainty, discovering what brings us true joy is essential for our well-being and fulfillment. Join me as we continue to uncover the keys to unlocking joy and living our most authentic lives. So here is the story. When I was so young, I must have been, 5 or so. I was a young girl and we were at a family reunion and one of these jamming songs came on. I absolutely loved the song. I'm not sure if I have ever heard it before, but I got out on that dance floor and my whole family in the middle of the dance floor, okay? And I just turned up. I was just grooving and I can remember the day I felt it in my spirit. It was like, I just need to groove to this song. And it was that song, Do You Love Me? Yeah, that, Do You Love Me? I was dancing and I was grooving, okay? And my whole family just sat back and was like, what is this? I was such a shy little girl. I was, quiet and whatnot. But that dancing I did in the middle of that song, in the middle of that floor, when that song came on, was not shy, was not reserved. I was in my own space and I was grooving, okay? That was my jam. And then I just was like in my own little space. I was loving it. And that was something that my family, they remember it to this day, many decades later. And I remember it, and it's something that brought forth something, the joy and just love within me. And it brought out that happiness in others. Can you think of a day where everyone remembers something you did as a baby? Like, so they were really enthralled and really invested in it as well. And so when I was living through my own little joy and purpose at that little young age, what I was experiencing, what I was giving was just bringing out joy in other people. I was joyful from within. So fast forward a couple of years, I'm still dancing, still loving it. And I didn't think much of it, teenage years or whatever. I'm like, I like to dance. I'm just going to dance. Thought nothing of it. Got into dance classes, and I thank my family for allowing me to go to those after school practices and allowing me to get into the dance team and traveling with them. It was the joy of my life. And I moved forward, college, still dancing, cheering for the cheerleading team for college. I was still doing my thing, graduated from college. And like, okay, well, there's no dance team in the real world for adults. Where do I find my dance space? I went to theater and I started dancing in theater. But what I found when I was continuing to take classes, any classes that I could find, as a grown adult, I was like experiencing workplace pressures, and then going to dance class in the evening or weekend. And sometimes I would be just in such a bad mood after work or whatever happens in my relationship. I remember one day vividly crying all the way from where I lived in the deep suburbs to driving to the city to take classes. And that was a good 45-minute drive minimum without traffic. And I'm thinking, I'm crying all the way to class, just boo-hoo, how am I going to get through class? But I wanted to go because, one, it was a community college class and attendance was a big part of your grade. So missing the class would have cost me my grade. I am crying on the way there. I am parking and I'm crying and I'm walking to the door like, gosh, I got to get myself together. Let me wipe these tears and like everything's okay. And so I took my attendance at the door. I took my shoes off, ready, got dressed or undressed for dance, and put my mindset to like, I'm going to get through this class. But it was not hard work at all. Once the class started to move and stretch, and I was like, okay, this is a good thing. I'm feeling it in my body. I'm feeling the stretches. I'm feeling the warm up. This is awesome. So there was a transition there. And when we started to dance, I tell you, I was in a totally different space. Nothing mattered. Nothing. I couldn't even think of anything to have it matter. All I could feel was joy and peace and just being in myself. And that is when I knew that dance was joy for me. And looking back over the years, all the way back to, through college, through high school, through middle school, through that dance experience at the family reunion, I now know what all this came together to be as a message of dance is joy for you, Monica. And you have to live it. You have to do it. And so all of that came together as a message to me, to Monica, this is joy. And dance brings you joy. You must keep it in your life. And I'm so grateful for those experiences because I found my joy. And today's episode is going to walk you through steps in helping you find your joy. If you haven't found it already, then this is going to help you get there. If you think you know, this is going to help you confirm what you already do know. And if you know already, this is extra layer of yes, this is what joy is. And I'm walking in this space with everyone else and Monica and knowing that I am confirmed in my joy. I'm going to feel it and be confirmed in this discussion. Let's get into finding your joy on this path of self-discovery. All right. Here we go. So first of all, let's define joy, right? Is joy just a fleeting moment? Is it something that here today and gone tomorrow? No, not quite. Joy. And this has been my definition of joy, and a definition that I've found also in dictionaries as I've run across, like how do I present this definition to people of joy? Joy is an inner sense of well-being. It is an inner sense of contentment. It is an inner sense of well-being and fulfillment, inner peace, contentment, and comfort inside. It is independent of what's happening on the outside. So I gave you the example of me being on that dance floor at 5 years old or whatever young age I was, and nothing mattered. Nothing mattered. I was almost a totally different person from my really quiet little girl to like this explosive girl on the dance floor. It was joy, and nothing on the outside mattered. So knowing that joy is something that's within you, that's all yours, and that no one can take away from you, this is a place of just being all you, right? It is all yours. It is a place of safety. And in my last episode, it is your landing spot. You can never have anyone take this away from you. So it's important to find what it is that brings you joy. So let's go into the questions that you need to answer in order to be sure that you are discovering your joy. This brings us to the next step that we're going to talk about in your path to self-discovery and finding your joy. It is cultivating your self-awareness, knowing what's truly you, what's your authentic vibe, what makes you tick, right? And not ticked off. That's what we want to know. What is making you happy? Not just, some external thing that's making you happy. Something that when you are doing this work or when you are doing this activity or when you're involved with this space, you are feeling joyful. You are contributing to more joy in your life. And here is how you find it. As you know, I went through a few years of before I knew that dance was the thing that helps me be at peace. This is what you'll need to do to make it a little shorter for you, right? You don't want to have to go through all these years before you are aware that you have something that can bring you joy, that contributes to more joy in your life and helps you be at peace. So here are a few questions that help you along the way in finding this joy. What is it that you're doing that brings you the most peace? What activity brings you the most peace? When you are in this activity, when you're doing this activity, you don't think of anything on the outside world, whether good or bad. You're just in your own space. You're totally tuned out and zoned out. And it's just, you're in a space that I like to call flow. Everything's coming from within you, and outwardly you're producing a result. What is your flow state? What is your peace? And next question, where is it that you are, or what is it that you're doing when your nervous system is most relaxed? When you're not in that fight or flight mode? When you can set your shoulders down, when you can kick back a little, where you don't have to feel like I've got to watch out for this, I got to watch my back on that, I need to be this certain way, I need to be that certain way. Where is it that all of that is gone and you are in peace? What are your passions and your desires? You may know something about yourself that you know that when you go do that, you are happy. That's your activity. That's my jam. That's that thing that I do. What is it? And I'm not going to list a lot of it because it could very well be a bunch of things that any one of you could have that are passion. There's plenty of things out there. Know what it is that brings you complete happiness, where you can fully not be dependent upon what's happening on the outside for your happiness. What are some of the pleasures that you do that bring you total fulfillment? We're talking about healthy pleasures here. We're not talking about indulging in a box of chocolate. That's temporary, that's fleeting, that's temporary happiness. We're talking about something that is healthy, that's within you, that you know that it's producing a good, healthy outward result. For me, it was dance. And then lastly, this next step is letting go of what no longer serves you. I can't stress it enough that you have to let go of what is no longer helping you out in life. Maybe it helps you at a certain time, but it's no longer producing any good results in your life, no longer producing any good fruit. This stuff has to go. There's no tap dancing around it. There are things in your life that maybe they were good at some point in time, maybe they were great. But now when you're involved with those things, when you're doing those things, they bring about negative emotions to you. They make you feel a certain way when you're doing them or when you're done with it. In order to get towards this, in order to get to this path of self-discovery that we're on, you cannot have things weighing you down. You can't have this negative energy and think that you're going to all of a sudden produce wonderful positive energy. We know that these things are going to maybe balance each other out if they're equal, but if this negative energy is too much, it's going to drag down whatever positive that you bring in your life. And I say get rid of it, because you're going to work 3 or 4 times harder to try to bring joy in your life if you constantly have to deal with that negativity. And you know from listening to my previous episodes, that negative thing that I had to get rid of was my job. It was constant having to deal with the fires of the microaggressions on a constant basis, the larger racial acts of aggression. Like, these things were not soothing. They were not healthy. Managers that were nowhere near having my best interest in mind, that had to go. And if you have something in your life that's bringing up negativity for you, that has to go. And let's go through an exercise of trying to find out if there is for you. Maybe you know it right off the bat, like, I knew it was my job, but maybe there's something in your life that you're not quite sure of, or that you didn't realize is producing this negativity in you, and you're wondering, why am I feeling so weighted down? Why am I feeling so tired? Why am I feeling so stressed? Let's go through and see if there are some things that we can point out in your life. One, maybe your outlook on things. Maybe this is some negative emotion that you have, or negative belief that you might have, right? Like, perhaps there's a internal struggle that you have that is not obvious to you, but may become obvious to you after you sit and reflect on it for some time. So, for example, if you have a limiting belief, you may not even know it's a limiting belief, but hear me out. What are the beliefs that are holding you back, right? This, for example, in my situation, for the longest, I felt like I must have this high paying job to maintain a healthy space in my life. Because without this high paying job, I'm not going to have the things that make me happy. That was a limiting belief for me. Um, it was not true. By staying in this unhealthy, toxic work environment, because I believed that I needed that money to keep me happy, that was a limiting belief. I thought that that was the only way that I was going to get happiness. I thought that was the only way that was going to get me the money that I needed to maintain and my lifestyle that I like to live. Sir, no ma'am, these things were limiting for me. What are your limiting beliefs? What are things that you believe but are actually holding you back? Right? Maybe there's some belief that you don't have time in your life to pursue the things that you want to do. Well, let's deconstruct that. Where is it in your life that you can find a little bit more time so that you can produce the results that you want in your life? And you may have to study your calendar a little bit. Create a calendar, first of all. Write everything down, and all of the times that you have in your life, your sleep, gotta block that out. You go to bed at 10 o'clock and wake up at 6, whatever the times are, block them out. And what is it doing? What's it that you're doing when you wake up at 6? Or whatever time you wake up in the morning? Are you lying in bed and scrolling Instagram or whatever for the first 20 minutes of your day? Or are you hopping out of bed and jumping up and doing some stretches, some meditation, something that is healthy and going to produce some results for yourself? You are, believe it or not, if you write down your times in your calendar, block them off, you're going to find some minutes that add up to hours that can help you find time in your life to pursue the things that you want. And that I'm almost guaranteeing you that you are wasting some time in your life that you could be using for a better, more productive output in your life. What about your relationships? Are there any toxic relationships that you need to revisit and not necessarily get rid of, but revisit how they show up in your life or how you show up in other people's lives or how the relationships play out? We have to realize that as social beings, our relationships have a lot to do with how we feel on a day-to-day basis, whether they're workplace relationships, whether they are friendships, whether they're, family relationships. They have a really big impact on our life and how we feel. So if there is a relationship out there that's bringing some toxic in your life, we have to reevaluate how we show up in that relationship. If we show up in that relationship, what can be done to reinvest the energy in that relationship so that it comes out to be a stronger, less toxic relationship in your life? And for some instances, those relationships can't be changed. You have to revisit distancing yourself from that relationship or completely cutting the relationship off. There is room and time for that. I don't recommend cutting off all of your relationships, but what distance can you create and how can you reevaluate what energy you get from the relationship, what energy you put towards the relationship? It needs to be healthy, it needs to be productive, and it needs to actually put a smile on your face, right? When you leave that interaction with the relationship, it should make you feel better once you leave instead of making you feel more drained, right? Not 100% of the time. There's time and place for having to work hard towards the betterment of the relationship, and that may leave you drained if there's a greater good that can come of it. But if you're constantly drained for all the time with that relationship and you've given it your all, then maybe you need to reconsider how that relationship shows up in your life. So reconsidering all of this negative energy, relationships, or even the limiting beliefs that you may have that are holding you back, this is going to get you on your path to your joy. It's going to get you closer to your joy. It's going to get you to the self-discovery, knowing what works for you and executing on these things so that we can have this joyous lifestyle that we're all striving for. right? It's going to take work to get there. I firmly believe that it's possible because you know what? I've done it. And I want to bring others along with me in getting to this place. Getting to this place where you know your joy, you know what works for you, what makes you tick and what makes you tick in a good way. You know what relationships are good and not so great for your life, and you know how to manage them. This is going to get us to our path together. I invite you to participate in these activities that we've gone through today. Go back and play back some of these questions that I've had for you, and maybe sit down with your diary or your journal and reflect and write after this episode. This is where we get to have our self-discovery. Until next time, please make sure you press subscribe, make sure you like and follow for more. Thank you, everyone.